What's up, everyone? Welcome to 90 Minute Cocktail Hour. I got my buddy Dan Baldwin here.
Yeah,
We're going to talk to him in a minute. Before that, though, if you've been listening to these episodes, if you listened to the first two and you were like, hey, 90 Minute Cocktail Hour, like, where did that come from? Just know that I literally finally came up with the name, like, just like a day or two ago. And it was after I had recorded the first two episodes. So, that said, we got the name, we got the vibe, we got Danny B here. Uh, Danny, I'm so stoked you're doing this with me, man. Thank you. I appreciate it.
dude, thanks for having me on. The fact that you came up with this in 2 days is really sick. Great name for what you're doing, so I'm excited to be here.
Right on, brother. So, why don't you introduce yourself and give us like a little Cliff Notes version of who you are, what you do?
Cool. Yeah, let's do it. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is my name is Dan Baldwin. I am a videographer, owner, and video editor of Dan Baldwin Films. Recently, Danny B Productions, but rebranded into Dan Baldwin Films. I've been
I,
doing wedding videography for about 8 years now, and super stoked.
I love the rebrand, dude. Like, I loved Danny B,
Yeah.
but like, you're about to be a dad, dude. So like, it's time for Dan Baldwin.
Yeah, it was time, man. Danny B Productions ran its course, but as I kind of like grew into myself in the wedding industry, Dan Baldwin Films just fit better, and it's been absolutely amazing so far.
Yeah. So, all right, I want to talk to you about this first.
Cool.
You're about to be a dad.
Yeah, no pressure.
How are we feeling about this?
I'd be lying if I said that I was really, really calm. But nervous, anxious, excited, scared. Every emotion I think possible is kind of what I'm feeling.
Yeah.
We're in actually the middle of getting our house ready now, so we're redoing the bathrooms, we're getting the nursery ready. So, handling that on top of the wedding business and all that has been kind of stressful to a point, but dude, honestly, exciting. I would say that would be my main feel right now.
So we've worked together a bunch of times. Um, every time we work together, like I know the day is just gonna go like super smooth, super easy. We're
Yeah.
gonna have a good time. You work off of what I'm doing. I'm working off of what you're doing. Um, but I like your personality. Like you're gonna be an amazing dad. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Oh, dude, thank you so much.
Like I'm really excited for you, dude. You're a kid. Like I don't know. I feel like
Are
just
you
based on the way that we like go back and forth,
like,
like on the wedding day, like you're gonna have those dad jokes like locked and loaded, like
dude?
ready to go.
Oh, stories on it ready. I mean, just hearing some of your stories is interesting enough. The fact that like I'm gonna be in those shoes, like I'm stoked for it, bro. I'm
I'm
stoked.
surprised that anyone around me even wants to have kids after hearing some of the stories that I have to tell.
Dude.
I'll just tell you this real quick. And I don't know. I hate being that guy because like I don't know. I feel like I don't know. It can come off really douchey when you're like, oh, just wait till they get to this age. But
Yeah.
like, just enjoy when they're young. It's hard. Don't get me wrong. It's freaking hard when they're like, because everything is new. You're not getting any sleep.
Yeah.
Like, there's poop, there's pee,
Oh,
there's spit up, there's like no sleep. It's a shit show. Um, but I'll just tell you, my 4 year old over the weekend, we're repainting our boys' room upstairs,
okay.
and it's impossible to get it all done in one shot because we can really only find like little pockets of time to get it all done. So like all the painting stuff is up there, but my 4 year old over the weekend decided to take it upon himself to dump out an entire gallon of paint on the floor
Oh, no way.
and try to, he wanted to get the job done. Like, and, and this is the hardest part because
Oh,
you don't want to squash their like enthusiasm, and you
yeah.
don't want to squash their like, hey, like I wanted to do this, but you also can't dump a gallon of paint
Yeah.
on our floor.
Well, you know what? It's funny you say that because so we're actually getting our carpets done too, and we just finished the master bedroom, and obviously the carpets are going to get done, so it doesn't matter. But the amount of paint that I spilled, kind of like by accident or off the brush, you would think I was a 4-year-old. Honestly, like the way I was just like splashing it around, it was. I am not a painter by any means. I got the job done, but cleanliness is not top priority. It was just getting it done. So it probably looked like a 4-year-old did my bedroom paint. So I
Okay,
can do that.
that's fair. That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah. So all that to say, like, enjoy the early stages, but it's still really hard.
Yeah.
Um, so, all right. So this is like kind of the first question, really like the only question that I have people prepare for on this podcast
Okay.
is like, all right, you're coming out of high school, you've thought about like what you want to do for a living. I don't know if you like went to college or like where you went to college if you did, but like what was your like perceived like life path or career path like around that time?
Yeah, totally. So I think honestly, I didn't have one, if I'm being completely honest. So, growing up, the biggest question is always, what are you gonna do when you get out of high school, or what do you want to be when you grow up? Like, you're taught that from an early age, or asked that question when you're, in second grade. You had to do a report on like what you wanted to be when you grow up, and like it could be anything. And from that time was like no clue. Honestly, no idea. So that was a big stressor for me through high school because all my friends wanted to be mechanics or engineers or graphic designers. Well, at the time, I was, in a deli making cheesesteaks and skateboarding on the side. Like that was like my two main things. I would cook cheesesteaks in the day or whatever, and then I would go skateboarding. Like
And
that was
honestly,
that was
that
my
sounds
life.
amazing, dude. That's that's awesome.
Yeah, it was amazing, honestly. But like, in the back of my head, I was like, all right, Dan, what are you actually gonna do with your life? But honestly, there was no like real answer. I just was kind of like going through the motions. And then I actually started doing construction work towards the tail end of high school. I would say like junior year into senior year. I got linked up with a buddy of mine. They needed hands doing concrete work. So I started doing that, and then the money was good with that. So I did that for about 10 years. So in my eyes, that was kind of like, this is what I do. I'm a construction worker. And it kind of like ticked that box of like, I'm a construction worker. This is what I'm going to be when I grow up. And I was like kind of fine with it, if I'm being honest.
Sweet. So what so like was there something else like kind of going on like on the side there? Like did you have an inkling that you wanted to kind of scratch like the creative itch a little bit, or did that not come until later?
Dude, honestly, like, well, looking back on it, I think skateboarding for me was that outlet. And not knowing it, but like I was always like filming or taking photos on my phone or like not professionally at all, just literally with like a little camcorder or something. But like looking back on it, like that's kind of, I was doing it without like knowing that I was a videographer essentially. I was just filming people or like taking photos. And that's kind of where I think everything stemmed from looking back. And then that's, we can kind of touch base a little more on that in a little bit. But yeah, man, I think just construction work was like my main job. And then I would skateboard as like a hobby. And I think, that was my creative outlet.
So like you making like films, or just
Yeah.
like doing like little like clips for your buddies, or like a little bit of both?
So, well, I mean, we're going back 10 years, 15 years, and, sponsor me tapes were a big thing. And I was a pretty decent skateboarder. So, I was doing construction work with the hopes of making a nice sponsor tape to send to companies to then get sponsored and be a, amateur to pro skateboarder. Like that was the dream always. But then obviously you get older and then you're jumping down handrails and you're falling and you break a shoulder, a collarbone, an arm, and now you can't work. Now you can't pay for your car. So like life responsibilities kind of took that dream away.
Did you actually like do that? Did you like break a shoulder or break a collarbone? Like,
No, no, honestly, I never did, knock on wood. But no, everything was good on that end.
mm,
But just having that like worry of like if it did happen,
mm,
you know what I mean, was just
yeah,
scary enough to where, um, that kind of deterred me away because that was like the next level. The next level was like bigger, going, bigger tricks, bigger handrails, bigger everything, and you're staring down this like 15 stair handrail, and you're like, how am I gonna jump down this and survive? You know what I mean? So, but making that sponsor me tape was like the film side of kind of where I stemmed from.
okay, that's really interesting. So it's funny because like on the last episode that I did, we one of the things that I really got into, and it was kind of like concurrent with getting into the wedding industry, but like still maybe a little bit before, was like I was super big into surf photography. Like, I lived down the shore, so I would like, you know, right after we would have these like crazy nor'easters, I would like roll out of bed, go down and like, dawn patrol, get down there and like, get those like really nice backlit barrels and like, the spray blowing over the top with those like
Uh,
offshore winds.
so
Like
sick.
that was my jam. And like I wish, and I see I see some guys that I follow who who actually do wedding photography, who also are into that like kind of like skate, like punk scene,
For
and they
sure.
do like some really like killer, amazing, like wide angle with the flash, like in your face, like
Love it.
yeah,
Like the Trans World cover magazine type stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So now when you were doing like the surf stuff, were you like in the water or were you shooting with like a 400 millimeter, like from the beach? Like what was,
Yeah, no, I wasn't in the water. I always, I mean, I messed around a little bit with like a GoPro, but
okay.
I never like really ponied up and like invested in like a crazy housing for my camera. I would like to at some point in life,
Yeah.
because I feel like any of the images that I see where I'm like really drawn to with surf photography, they're like almost always from the water.
And, and you see like those shots, you're like, how did they shoot that?
Yeah,
I think that would be a cool experience to actually be in the water and like having that housing and like, I think it would tell more of a story with the photo
yeah,
than on like beach side.
you're definitely more connected to it in the water,
Yeah.
because you're like experiencing what they're experiencing too. Like it doesn't look like it, but especially on like some of those like windier days, and I'm not a surfer. I just know this from like talking to guys who do surf and like being out there on some of those days. But like, there if there's even like a little bit of like north in the wind or like south in the wind, you're like paddling against these currents, and like, even just the paddle out to get out there to get past like where the waves are breaking, like I've gone surfing like maybe 3 times in my life, and honestly, the paddle out like is the freaking worst.
Is is the war? So I've only been surfing one time.
Yeah,
The paddle out. I don't know how. Honestly, I don't know how they do it because by the time I got out there, I was like gassed. My neck was burning from like trying to keep my head up.
yeah,
You're fighting the waves, and then even just when you're waiting for the waves, you're kind of getting pushed in. So now you got to paddle back out. So the
yeah,
whole time it's like this, like paddle in, paddle out, and hope for the best. 2 hours in, I was like, all right, this is not for me. Like
yeah.
I'm a skateboarder. Like you know what I mean. So I gave up surfing really quick. You know.
A really short surf career.
Really
Um,
short. I feel like the whole thing, dude.
yeah,
Not
dude.
I love it, but not my vibe.
I mean, there's the paddle out, and then but part of my problem is I get like motion sick really easily. So like bobbing up and down, even like on a surfboard, dude. Like I remember like first time I went surfing, I was out there for maybe like 20 minutes. I like maybe I wouldn't even say I got up. I like stood up and then immediately fell over.
Oh my
And I
god.
like went back into shore and immediately threw up all over the beach because like
Yeah.
we'd had this like big lunch beforehand and I was just like so like
Yeah.
nauseous from bobbing up and down in the water.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, if I did get in the water with a housing, I would definitely have to pop a Dramamine before I got out there.
Oh
Um,
my
so
god. You're out there just spaced out. Like what?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
I love it.
yeah. Um, yeah. I talked about this the last time too, but I met Clark Little Like the wave photographer from Hawaii. He's the guy that like throws himself into these like crazy shore break waves.
Yeah.
And, even just having like a couple of experiences being in the water, trying to shoot, even not even surfers, just like waves crashing,
Yeah.
like, and
Yeah.
not even on big days, on like these gentle, like summer, kind of like 1 to 2 foot swells. Like I don't know how these guys do it when it's like double overhead, and and not only that, but like in the winter when it's like the water temperature is in like the high 30s, you know?
Yeah, yeah, dude, and like so actually one of my I started doing physical therapy for like just like mobility type work, and he is actually a surfer, and he goes once twice a week, and I asked him like how he does it, and he's like, I got this insulated wetsuit. I'm just like, how does that, like, I wear Under Armour sometimes, but like how does that, it's still cold,
Yeah.
right? It's
Yeah.
like I don't understand it, but I love like most surfers are very passionate about that, which is really cool. So I to each is their own, I guess.
Right. So like, all right. So when did you kind of start to see like, all right, this is something I'm passionate about,
Yeah.
like doing videos. Like when did you start to see that as like a potential, thing that you could do to make money?
Yeah, totally. So, well, from the construction, I'll kind of like tie this in because it's all like a big story. So, after construction, when you scrub concrete and like you're outside every day, like you realize how hard it actually is on your body. And you hear that growing up about how you can't do construction forever
Yeah.
and you should find a
And those
different.
those bags of like dry concrete, like those are freaking heavy.
Bro, it was, I mean, I think I was 23 at the time. We ended up jackhammering like a big piece of curb out one day. The next day I woke up and like it felt like I pulled all my vertebrae out of like place. Like it was actually sick. And I was like, all right, like I'm only 23. I shouldn't be feeling this way. So then I pursued my other passion, which was fitness. So I was working out, really hard at the time. So became a personal trainer. That was my outlet from construction work. That was like, all right, I'm done with construction. I'm going to be a personal trainer. This is the new path. And then videography ties into that because at that time, that's where like Facebook videos blew up. That's when, Instagram kind of started, releasing like their video aspect of everything. So I would do like training tips. I would do like, motivation Mondays, like, ab workouts or just, stuff to just put online or put on YouTube. And that's where I kind of, I bought a better camera. I bought a 50 millimeter. I bought the gimbal, like just to increase the quality of the personal training videos in order to bring in personal training clients. So, but again, like I wasn't making money there. And then where I kind of fell with it is one of my personal training clients was a bride to be. And her budget was really tight for her wedding. She really couldn't afford a videographer, a photographer. Like, she was trying to like keep everything really tight. And I said, hey, I'll come shoot it, drink, eat for free, party with you. Cause we're friends at the time. So there was like, no harm, no foul. She's like, yeah, totally. Like, she doesn't care. She's not paying for it. Ended up shooting that wedding. And then, after I posted that trailer, which it actually wasn't really, really terrible, surprisingly. I got people like, messaging me like, hey, I didn't know you did wedding videos. Like, how much do you charge? And that's where kind of things started to stem. I was like, wait a minute, how much can I charge? So then you start Googling and you're like, oh my God, like there's money to be made doing this. And I that first wedding, I loved it. It wasn't like, I have a story on my Instagram, like way back when of me telling this, but it was like when I left, I was so just like, whoa, like that was incredible. Like I can't wait to get home to edit it. I can't like it was just the feeling was unmatched. So that's where kind of everything stemmed from, and then I kind of developed the business from that point.
So that's really interesting. So you had that like from day one, you were like, I'm all in. Maybe not all in, but like
Yes.
you knew there was something there for you.
There was something there. Yeah, because and even that first trailer, I mean, I'm really big on like comparing. That's one of my downfalls. We can touch on that later. But I was like, wow, like this my first wedding trailer is better than some of these people that have been doing it for 5-6 years. And I'm like, maybe I have a talent after all. You know what I
Mm.
mean? So it's, that's where, again, like that's where everything stemmed from. But it was never in the plan from the jump. It just kind of happened, which to me I think is really cool. Like telling the whole story that way.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is why I wanted to do this, because I've yet to meet anyone in the industry who like set out to be a wedding photographer from like day
Sure.
one, or like who set out to be a videographer or even like a planner. I mean, my story was definitely not where I was like, oh, from a young age, I'm going to be a wedding photographer. I don't know, like, what kid would even say that.
I,
Like, a
right.
very weird, a very weird kid. And I'm sorry if you are that kid who like wants to be a wedding
You're
photographer.
weird, kid. Don't don't do it, weirdo.
Um, but like, yeah, like this is the thing that like interests me, and I actually didn't have that experience of like the first wedding that I shot where I was like, I want to do this all the time, where like I thought it was like super cool. And it was mostly because I had like so much anxiety like leading up to it.
Yes. Oh, nervous.
Yeah.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah.
Still to this day, like walking into like groom prep and like you don't know what you're walking into and just the nerves, the anxiety. But like to me, like that's the fun part. Like that's like the adrenaline, the adrenaline rush.
It took some time for me for it to shift from anxiety into like excitement.
Yeah.
Like for me for a while it was probably like 80-20 anxiety versus excitement.
Okay. That's
and now
that's good.
and now it's like a little bit skewed more the opposite. Like I definitely, there are some days that I'm a little bit more nervous, like depending on like what the vibe is, but like for the most part, and that's one of the reasons why I like freelancing so much is because, so much of the like the pressure is kind of taken off of me. Like I can just kind of like show up and do my creative thing and then, not have to worry about like the front end or the back end stuff.
For sure.
Um,
And I mean,
but
to your point too, like this is where like working with people that you like or know kind of helps. Like I know if you and Kelly are shooting a wedding, like that level of anxiety and nervousness kind of goes away because it's like, all right, I already know their vibe. I know what's going to happen. Like I know the day is going to run smooth for the most part on our side. So there is like that level, which is really nice when you're
yeah,
working.
yeah,
You
I
know,
definitely get a little more nervous when I see a vendor that I don't recognize
yeah,
on the timeline.
yeah. Videographer shows up with this big ass tripod on wheels, like
Oh my god.
uh,
St- there are stories. There are stories we could tell.
there's stories for days. But
Um,
anyway, yeah,
but
sir.
I want to keep it on. So like that. So how? Like, what was your trajectory? Did you then at that point kind of go immediately like, all right, let me try to book more, or was it just kind of like maybe a little bit slower? Like what did that trajectory look like for you?
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, when you first start off, like you don't really know. Like for me, like business, I didn't know anything about business. I didn't know about taxes, LLCs, like any of that. Like there was no like, hey, like this, like I shot my first wedding. I have two or three more, but I didn't see myself. Oh, I need to book 50 or 60 or I was kind of just like didn't really know what to do because again, I was still personal training. So I was still personal trainer Dan, like thinking like I was going to open my own gym and like that was the route I was going to go if weddings didn't happen for me. So I was going to open my own studio and go that route. But then bookings quickly grew because I was only charging maybe $400, $500, and I was putting out pretty quality ish work. Around that. I mean, we're talking 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so then like it was just growing really fast and it was a really quick learning process. So I would say from that first wedding, that whole year was like maybe shot 5 weddings, but then after that I was like, okay, let's go. I want to go full steam into this. And ironically, the gym that I was working at closed down that same year. So like that was kind of the boot to like, all right, you can either go work at another gym or you can go full steam ahead into your own business. And then that's where I developed the LLC, the logo, all of that. And then that's where I started like posting those couple trailers in wedding groups and things like that, and really trying to book a lot of weddings, because then at that point I was unemployed, so I didn't have that personal training income coming in, and I was kind of self-reliant on the wedding business. So that's where again, I was like pushing that really hard, trying to book as many weddings as possible to develop that full-time income. And I'm so grateful for those couples that kind of took that chance on me, because at the time I didn't have reviews. I didn't have, I only shot 4 or 5 weddings to like kind of, whatever. So I'm forever grateful for them few weddings, because that's where I developed the experience, and, getting those couple quick reviews, obviously helps you book more clients and raise your prices. So, that's kind of like where I came from.
So did you like second shoot or associate shoot for anyone, or was it all just like your own
Yeah, so
stuff?
I owe a lot of my success, and I still to this day, like, I am so grateful for Michael Hook is one of them. He is my, like, if without him I probably wouldn't be here, because
Great dude. Amazing dude.
he taught me everything. I second shot for him a lot. And he taught me about business, and even like on wedding days, he was kind of like I was shadowing him without shadowing him, if that makes sense. Like, I was
Yeah.
second shooting, but I was also absorbing everything he was saying. So him, Brian Jenkins from VCAD Films, he was another mentor, because his wedding films are like top notch. So that's who I was kind of like emulating a lot of my style towards. And he as well was, very open with like, what gear he was using or how he was shooting certain things. So I second shot for him a bunch. And again, like, I just took that knowledge and then wrapped it into my own brand, and then kind of built from them two being like my pillars. And then that's where I kind of just developed my own brand.
Do you think like so I think for myself, like I I think the like surf photography, for me, like kind of informs a little bit of, my wedding photography style, like, and it's maybe not even so much because like I don't really shoot with like long lenses anymore. Like, with surf photography, you kind of got to shoot with like a zoom lens from the beach.
Yeah.
But, I think like that style of like beach coastal definitely kind of informs the way I shoot, right? Like looking for like textures, or like, maybe shooting a little bit wider to like kind of get the whole picture of like what's happening. Like, do you think your experience with skating photography or skating videography like inform the way that you do things now? Like, do you think there's like maybe an edge or like a grit that you bring to the table?
I think there is, but I don't think it's noticeable to another person.
Mm,
So, coming into the wedding industry, I just didn't want to create these boring wedding films of like tripod. You know what I mean? Like tripod, locked off shots, like cross dissolves, intros, fade ins. Like, to me, like, that's very just like 1990, like your parent, like my whole like mantra, like, I actually made a shirt that says it was like, not your parents' wedding film, because I was all against like boring wedding films. And
yeah.
skate videos, even like gym motivation videos were a big thing, because like YouTube, at that time, like gym YouTube was like really big, and they were making these like sick, like cinematic quick transitions, glitches, and like that's where like when drones really were big. So I think between skateboarding and the personal training, like hype type videos, if you watch some of my wedding films, there are some, taste of that in there. But with that, I knew it was still a wedding film, so you can't really take that taste away from it.
Yeah.
So I try to push, but not push too hard to where it's going to turn the couple off.
Yeah. Well, what I find really interesting in your work, and like one of the reasons I love working with you, is because like your videos are like really like they have like a they're like very dynamic, and they have like an intensity to them, but you're like pretty low key and like laid back on
Yes.
the day of,
Yeah. Thanks, man. So are
Yeah.
you. Well, what's crazy? Like, again, like going back to like the story of where I came, right? So it's like I think the work ethic came from the construction side of me,
Yeah.
right? It's like, like how hard to work and like, you know, and then, being a personal trainer, you walk into a room of 20 people and they're all staring at you, waiting for you to like teach them or show them what to do. So like building my personality and my comfort level being in like a room, because me at 17, 18, I was a shy kid. Face would turn red if you called my name, like super shy. So without the personal training side of me, me walking into a room of 5 girls getting ready, it would be like a nightmare. Where now, like, I'm excited. I walk in like confident. So it's pretty cool to see like all of those little things that I picked up along the way turn into who I am today.
Yeah.
You
And
know, it's cool.
I love hearing those things, where you talk about how like you had a little bit of a turning point where the gym that you were working for closed down and you had this like choice to make whether, go to look for another gym or just kind of like go all in on, this like wedding videography thing. Like I've talked to so many people and I feel like not even people in the wedding industry, just like people in life, we have these like turning points where like the universe, at the time it kind of feels like, oh shit, like you're looking over the edge of a cliff and you feel like maybe this was like the worst thing in the world. But in reality, it's like, no, this is just the motivation you needed to like really follow that thing that you're really passionate about,
Yeah. Yeah. And another quick turning point was, I mean, COVID, right? To where when wedding industry shut down, I then quickly realized how many other outlets there are for videography, because I was mainly focused on weddings. Like I was a wedding filmmaker, like that is like my core focus. To where I didn't realize how much real estate, branding, portrait or product videography, like how many other outlets there are out there. So once weddings kind of like got shut down, I was able to kind of shift focus and work for these like little small brands and still, do wedding or still do films, but just not in weddings. So I think that was another turning point where like I created another outlet outside of weddings, but still being a filmmaker, which was
right.
really cool. I
Was it
think
216 Media?
216 Media is the other brand.
Plug it,
And
bro. Plug it.
yeah, 216 Media Company. Follow me on Instagram. We're doing big things over there. But it's cool because that's another outlet, right? So again, like back to that turning point. With if COVID would have never happened, I probably wouldn't have started that, and I probably just would have been, you know, I solely would have been focused on weddings, which is still cool. But I'm able to then take what I'm doing in 216 and like again like fast edits or like picking up things along the way about lighting and like how to do certain things there, and now I bring them into my wedding edits. So it all goes hand in hand. So again, turning points are huge, man, and I'm so grateful for everything so far.
Yeah. So that's interesting, like diversifying, like that was actually part of the reason why I wanted to do this, and why I've loved doing this even just for the short amount of time that I've been doing it. Not that I'm making any money off of this, but like, or yet, hopefully I will, but like, but doing something that I'm passionate about that like isn't, it's not directly tied to like my income yet,
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Huge.
dude, it's so much fun. And it's like, it's very freeing in a way where, like there, when you're doing something for money, like obviously it's great to get to do what you love and to get paid for it. Like that's amazing. Like that's kind of, I think what
Great.
a lot of people are like striving for in their lives, or like, and a lot of people will maybe never experience that, So like we're very fortunate that we do get to do that with what we do. But like the money does kind of bring in this energy of like, all right, I have to produce something for this person, that they're gonna like approve of. So I think it's really important to have like some creative thing that you're doing, and I'm not always able to do this with like just the amount of time and energy that I have, but I think it's like really important to be able to do something creative, that's not motivated by like business or money,
For sure.
because that like carries into, like you said, that those things, what you do outside of like wedding photography, videography carries back into what you're doing, you know, and vice versa. And like one of the things that came up on one of the other episodes was like, you know, having being passionate about what you do, right? Like being passionate about being in the wedding industry, having that joy like carry over into other parts of your life, you know?
For sure.
So like you get to take that enthusiasm and energy that you get after shooting a wedding day, and then you're bringing that home to your wife, you know, you're bringing that home to your family. Like that's freaking awesome, you know?
It's incredible. And then so I'm kind of struggling with this right now, if I'm being honest with you, to where like, you know, now weddings and photo video are now the income and the focus, to where now you go on like, you know, family trips or vacations or things where it's like you really want to take, like you should be taking photos and video, but at the same time it's like you're on vacation and that's kind of a break from your work, and you don't, it's like more editing, like that's kind of like it's a struggle, you know,
Yeah.
where like I don't know, you know,
I don't bring my camera on family trips.
it's tough.
I just don't.
It's really hard. But so I actually just picked up a little Fuji,
Yes.
dude,
Yes.
XV100,
Yes.
the holy grail of what I just said.
What
Like,
is that? Is that the XT? What is it, like the XT 500 or the
oh,
XT?
it's just the X100V.
That's what it is. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Shout out Fuji if you want to send me a new one. Um, but that's been free because it's literally just point and shoot. There's no lenses. There's no no settings for the most part, and you just
No, but
click.
it's still mirrorless and it's still full frame, right?
Mirrorless. You can put it in your pocket. It's not an
Yes.
iPhone photo. It's still kind of cool. So that has been, you know, my holy grail this year with the whole like baby, and you know, just being able to just snap photos along the way and not having to get my big Sony out, put a lens on, put a battery, two SD cards, like, you know, making it feel like I'm working, if that makes sense, to where I can
Yeah.
just grab the Fuji, take some cool photo, video, and then I can put it right away. You know,
Yeah.
so.
Dude, that's huge. That's definitely on my that's on my list of things, like my list of tools that I want to pick up because yeah, I don't pack my camera when I go on vacation. It's just too much of a hassle. It's too stressful.
It is.
You know, I'm stressed out about if it's gonna break. I like and then when I get there, like I don't even want to carry it because it's so like
It's
freaking
another thing to
heavy.
carry, especially all your kid. Like,
Yeah,
it's too much.
yeah, yeah.
But
You're
it's
gonna have yeah. You don't want like a baby strapped to you and then a camera strapped to you. You know.
right. But at the same time, like if you're going cool places and you see your kids like playing on rocks, you're like, damn, should have brought the camera. So like that's where, you know, I kind of was, you know, was struggling before the Fuji. So,
Yeah. No,
uh,
I think that's great. I've definitely I've been on my list of things that I want to get, and it just
huge,
you know
bro.
hasn't been in the
Huge.
budget lately.
I love it.
But
I
like
praise it.
there is something to be said for disconnecting from, you know, from your phone, from your camera, from that work, for like to just be present, you know, to like be present with your wife, be present with your kids, and like really take in like the changes that happen because
Yeah.
they do happen like so quickly. You know, like the newborn stage goes so fast before you know it. They're like 3 months old and they're like, you know, looking at you, making eye contact. They're like starting to make facial expressions. And then, you know, at 6 months, they're like sitting up and they're like, you know, their personalities like starting to come out. Like it does happen so quickly. And like, yeah, the photos and videos are really, really important, but like, put that shit down for a second and like just be there, you know, just like make eye contact with your kid, you know?
Yes. Yes. And it's like, you know, I 100% agree. It's way harder said than done.
Really?
Right.
So for you, it's a struggle. So for you, like you want to be doing it. It's like, I think for me, I like, if I'm not at a job or at a gig, and maybe it's because like for the last couple of years, like I've been shooting like a lot. Like I've really like stretched myself.
Yep.
So like for the most part, like when I don't have to shoot, like I leave the
You're done.
camera down, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, it's like the opposite. It was like a struggle to pick up the camera to like take those photos.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I would be interested to see what other wedding photo video people had to say about this topic.
Yeah.
You know, because again, like I've read reviews on this one, so that's what kind of people steered me towards. But But yeah, that's the mental struggle I'm having. Like even like the gender reveal party we had, it's like, how do you not take photos of like your mom like holding pinks? Like it was just like this would be such a sick photo. Like, but at the same time I'm like, man, I gotta just like breathe and like be in the moment. So it's like, but I think having a kid is really going to help me with that. To be honest.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, honestly, like starting a family, having kids for me was like such a motivator in like, all right, so now it's not just about me, like now it's about like supporting a family, like making sure these kids, have a safe home, have a safe environment, have the things that they need to like thrive. And so, the things that I might have worried about in the past, like, I'm not going to say they went away, like, they're still there, but like, it just puts those things into perspective. It's like, I can't be worried about, these little tiny things, like people's opinions of me or like, this thing that I might have said at this one, I don't know if
Yeah.
this happens to you, but like sometimes I'll like say something at a wedding or like, I'll think that I like missed a photo or like missed a shot and I'll be like obsessing on it, obsessing on it, obsessing on it.
Yeah.
And then like the beauty part is like, when I get home and like, most of the time my kids are still sleeping, but if they're still up, I'm like, oh, this is what's important here. Like this is like really the most important thing here.
For sure. I, I think, dude, it's so true, man. It's just like your home base, right? It
Yeah.
like kind of brings you back.
Yeah.
Um,
Where I feel like before without that and this is like just my experience and like I feel like for me in a lot of ways like yeah, like having kids is like really difficult in a lot of ways, but it's also like so grounding and
yeah.
it's so like okay, my biggest priority now is like making sure that they can like live a childhood,
Yeah.
and like not be bound by like whatever shit or insecurities that like I have, like
Right.
it's really important that like they be kids and like have a childhood.
Right. You're a great dad, man. I wish you were my dad. I would be way better looking and my beard would look way better.
I don't know, man. There's not many people can rock that mustache.
Dude, it's running its course. It might be off by the in a week or two, but it's off season. I'm trying mullets. I'm trying weird stuff. So you don't know what you're getting come 2025 wedding season. Who's gonna show up with what?
Yeah, no, well, look, I mean, this is your like pre-dad, there's like, people have like midlife crisis. I feel
Yeah,
like you
this
got
is
to
it.
have like a pre-dad, crisis too.
Right. The baby's gonna come out of my wife, and she's gonna see this guy with this weird curly thing, and she's gonna be like, "What the heck is going on?" But no, it's all
Actually, it'll probably be the opposite, and this is just what I've experienced. Like, not that the babies don't love their mother, but like, prior to like the baby being born, like, we don't have that like physical connection yet with the baby, right? Like, it's growing in your wife right now, so like, it's a very like palpable like your baby is dependent on your wife for like
yes,
everything.
yes. I'm just the loser in the background. I'm just a support system that just rubs the belly from time to time.
Yes, yes. You're the chef. You're the pillow getter. You're the blanket getter. You're the make sure she's comfortable. Yes, that is your
Absolutely.
role. That is your job.
Yeah.
But like once that baby is born, like I feel like that's when we kind of get to form that bond, And I think your daughter, right? You're having a girl. Yeah.
Girl.
Your
Yeah.
daughter is gonna like take to you right away.
Yeah. I hope so. You know, with this mustache, you never know what's going to happen. You know what I mean?
So, so from Danny B to Dan Baldwin,
Yes.
what like obviously name change, but like what was there like a vibe change? Was there like a did you make like any big leap forward in terms of like your offerings or like the way you style your videos?
Yeah. So again, back to like when I first started, I didn't really know what was going to happen. So my nickname growing up was always Danny B. Like my friends called me Danny B. Like that was just who I was. So when I made the name for my wedding business, I was like, oh, Danny B Productions kind of sounds cool. So not thinking about branding or future goals, where I'm going to be at in 5 years, like, that kind of deal. I just kind of just started the LLC. Danny B Productions was the name, and I loved it for a while. But then after, 5 or 6 years of that, you learn a lot. So you learn about your style, what you like to shoot, where you like to shoot, what kind of, your color profiles, like all of that. So I thought, I really felt that I grew out of the Danny B production name, and like, the dark and contrasty, and like I just thought I just learned a lot, and it was time to elevate, right? To where when I came into Dan Baldwin Films, I upgraded my branding, my logo, the whole experience as a whole, to where I wanted a bride to click on my website and think like, I don't want to say luxury because that's not my goal, but I want it to feel like an elevated experience, like established. I guess established would be the name, or like the feeling of like where I'm trying to go and like where I am today. And again, I might rebrand, 5 years down the line. I might elevate from this point, but I just thought it was time to change. And it has been a game changer because I'm seeing my clients change. Like I'm kind of booking clients that want my style and not are just looking for a videographer, if that makes sense. So when I was Danny B Productions, again, I was booking whoever would come in the door. So where now I have a specific client that I target, and I think with that branding, I'm attracting the right client to my brand. And they're wanting me, they're wanting the mustache, they're wanting the Celsiuses and the nerd robes during the reception. So it's like that is all wrapped up into the brand, and that client wants that brand along with an amazing wedding film. And
Right.
I think that was the main separator from Danny B Productions to Dan Baldwin Films.
Yeah. Yeah. We we worked a wedding recently where pretty much the whole vendor team, like we all knew each other,
Yeah.
right? Like I was second shooting for Jordan, and it was you. We knew the content creator, we knew the planner, we knew the DJ. It was a great venue.
Amazing.
Like this couple could not have picked a better vendor team,
Exactly.
like and I kind of feel like we've all found our little niche, or we've like little found our little community
Yes.
within like the wedding photography world. Like we know the people that like we want to be surrounded with, we know the vibe that we want to create,
Yes.
not just for like obviously it's all about serving the client, it's all about producing work that they're going to be excited about, and it's about like being present on their wedding day. But also like you've experienced it, right? Like you show up and like maybe the photographer is kind of an asshole, and or and
Yeah.
vice versa. Like maybe there's always going to be personalities, right, that are like challenging to deal with. Like I think it's also super important for us to gravitate towards the people that are going to like not only elevate our work, but are going to be like supportive in the moment, and like on the same wavelength, like on the same vibe.
Exactly. And then even like, my referral network, because a lot of my business comes from photo referrals, because a lot of the times the client will book, photo first. So I try to cater not only to the client, but to photographers. So I want to not only match, like, so some of my biggest influences, Courtney Simpson, Kelly C Images, like Magdalena Studios, all like those companies that you ironically work for or shoot for. I find that like the styles work better. We work cohesive. I gotta shout out James Webb Photography now that I'm saying that. But it's just it's all cohesive for the client experience. But again, like a lot of my business comes from photo referrals. So my job as a videographer is I want to make your job easier, right? Because I want to cater to you, so you keep referring me.
Right.
So like that's kind of where like I kind of like steered myself into. If
But
that,
yeah, and so not only like style, but also like you know
present.
the well that too, but also like the way that we approach like posing. Like
Yes,
I
huge.
think a lot of the ways that the people that we work for, and like when you and I have worked together, it involves like a lot of movement, which is like very friendly for video.
Yes.
This way, like
Yes.
you don't have to be giving, directions twice to the client,
Yes. Yes.
because like, and this is, maybe some people want that experience, maybe some people are okay with that experience. Like they know that maybe they know that they signed up, for their wedding day to be like essentially a photo shoot. But
Yes.
I think the majority of clients that we get don't really want that experience and are going to be like burnt out by that experience.
For sure.
So they don't want it. They don't like. I get very uncomfortable when we're giving multiple in directions. Like telling them to do the same thing multiple times.
It
So
gets
like,
awkward. It gets awkward.
yeah, yeah. So like, if you can give a direction and I can work off of what you're doing, and I give a direction and you can work off of what I'm doing, like for me, like that's
It's
that's
perfect.
beautiful. That's perfect.
Yeah. And I mean, most of the time, you only really have time to do just that. Like, you have 10 minutes with the couple before they got to go into the reception. Like, I can't take them off to the side and say, hey, do everything we just did, but just for me. Like,
Right.
that doesn't work. But you also got to do that without, crossing each other's shots or like getting each other's way or like, just flowing.
Yeah.
You know
Well,
what I
like
mean?
the way that you operate, it makes it really easy for me to I'll do my thing, I'll give my direction, and then be like, hey Danny, like, is there anything you want to do?
Yeah.
You know?
That's the best. And like, so back to the whole rebrand thing. So when I was Danny V Productions, again, I was kind of just booking everything under the sun, trying to just, create, wealth and just build that pretty much from the ground up. But now I'm Dan Baldwin Films. Again, like I know what photographers I want to work with, what venues I want to shoot at, like, and I think it's just working out so well going in the Dan Baldwin Films direction because that seems to be happening. Because I'm seeing more of your face, which is nice. Sometimes depends on how your beard looks. And again, like it just makes the overall client experience much better.
Yeah. Yeah. For sure. Yeah, man, I'm glad we've linked up. It's been really fun,
It's been
working
awesome.
with you, getting to know you. So one of the other things I think about a lot because I'm getting older, I'm pushing 40. I don't see myself, shooting 75 weddings a year when I'm like 50. Like what do you think is your plan like moving forward? Do you like how much longer do you see yourself like shooting weddings? Or and that might be kind of a hard question to answer, but like do you ever think about like an exit plan?
Yeah, I do, honestly. And again, like that kind of stems back to like, what do you want to be when you grow up? So I can have a plan, but I really don't know. I kind of give myself around 50, 55 maybe. Like that's, because I mean, wedding days take a toll on you to where it's like, 55, I might be a little stiffer than I am now. But like that's kind of where I want to take 216 media to another level to where I can still do that and like do real estate, kind of something on the lower pace side, maybe, go that route, shoot less weddings. Or if my daughter really likes the wedding industry, maybe I'll just kind of pass the business on to her and like kind of teach her the ropes.
Yes.
If it happens to pan out,
Right.
great. If not, I'm not going to push it. But I think 216 media is the outlet. And then really scale back on the weddings and only take ones that I really want to, but definitely lower the volume, So that's kind of the plan as of right now.
Are you going to take some time off? When is your wife due?
May 15th.
Okay. You're going to take some time off, or are you just
So,
kind of like going
so
right back into it?
when we we were we always planned on having kids, but being in the wedding industry, you're booking. I'm getting 2027 inquiries, where it's like June 7th on 2027. Like you don't know where you're gonna be, what life is gonna throw at you, kind of deal. But like with weddings, that's kind of the nature of the beast. You kind of have to book it because that's your livelihood. So anyway, when we were trying to plan the family, my biggest stressor was trying to kind of plan the pregnancy around like slow season. So hopefully have the kid like February, March, April, like try to have the kid in that time frame because it'll just naturally happen to
Yeah.
where, I'm just naturally off. But now it really wasn't planned, if I'm being honest with you. But it just ironically worked out that from May 2nd or the first week in May until like towards the end of June, I don't have any weddings booked.
Wow.
Which is to me is really crazy because like outside of those 2 months, it's like I'm pretty much fully booked for 25.
Yeah.
So it just worked out so beautiful, unplanned, which was
Yeah.
awesome.
Dude, that's wild because normally like May, June, like it's
It's insane.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So thank God it worked out. Totally, everything was totally unplanned. So we're just kind of like going along for the ride, which I think is cool. You know what I mean?
Oh, dude, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'll just share with you because you're not going to have to worry about this, hopefully. But like,
Oh, geez.
with all three of my kids, I tried to give myself 2 weeks before and 2 weeks after my wife's due date. I tried to keep
Okay.
those open. And with our third, like, it was looking like Kim was going to go a little bit early. And, so I was like kind of stressing out a little bit because I had a couple weddings where like things were kind of getting close and they were talking about inducing her. And I was like, I don't know how this is going to
Can
work
we
out.
hold off because I got a wedding at Clark's Landing. If we could just hold off on this.
Like, or just leave the wedding, go right to my wife's induction. If we could just schedule it that night, that would be great.
Wrap up this first dance. That would be incredible. That way I gotta go.
Yeah, I mean, they would understand. They would
Yeah.
get it. No, but like, I was on my way out the door to a wedding, and my wife comes up to me and she's like, "Hey, don't freak out, but like, I'm, kind of starting to feel like I'm feeling some things. It might be labor, it might not be labor."
Oh, jeez.
And I'm like, "You got to be freaking kidding me!" Like, I'm literally like, bags are packed, gears in the car, heading out the door. Like,
Yeah.
and I'm not even going somewhere close. Like, I'm going down like somewhere like pretty far south, like an hour and 20 minutes away. And my wife was like, "Hey, like, don't freak out. Like, I think it's just, like false labor, but like, I'm gonna go to the chiropractor and like, da 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 da. I should be fine."
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, like, I guess I gotta go. Like, I guess I have to leave.
Like, what do you do at that point?
Yeah. And like, it turned out to be fine. Like, she was not in labor. But I was like in the car for like a good hour being like, I called like the lead shooter and I was like, "Just so you know, like, we
This,
might,
this could be happening today.
this could be happening today." Yeah, but anyway, like, it wound up being fine. And it's so much harder like for women who have to schedule, try to schedule their pregnancies around like their busy seasons. And
For sure.
yeah,
When you work with like someone like, photographers that are pregnant, I think Jordan Casey was one of them. She was what? 7 months pregnant, 8 months pregnant, and I'm like, dude, how are you doing this? Like, you
Yeah.
are a superhero at this point. Like,
yeah,
incredible, and her spirit was high, like, incredible.
yeah,
Here I
it's
am
pretty,
complaining that my feet hurt. I'm wearing these Steve Maddens. I'm not pregnant. I'm in shape. Like, and here she is, like, just rocking the day. You know what I mean?
I know. See, I mean, I don't know if they understand how difficult it is for us men, like,
We don't know what belt we're gonna wear, what socks are gonna match. Like, they think we just wake up and we're awesome. For the
Yeah.
most part, we are. But there's some days where it's tough.
no, you women who shoot while pregnant, like, you are goddamn superheroes.
Insane.
It's freaking amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. I'm really stoked that we got to do this.
Me too.
I love your energy. I love what you create. I love working with you. I really hope that, we get to spend some time together this year. Again, one of the reasons I like freelancing is because, like, sometimes I don't know who's going to show up on the day, and then, like, boom, it's you,
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, totally, man. I'm happy we did this, and I think I'm gonna be seeing you in the next month or two.
oh, yeah?
So doing the maternity photos.
Oh,
that-
yeah, right on.
So
Sweet.
That's gonna be fun.
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
Yeah,
bro.
dude, no pressure. No pressure.
I
I'm not gonna be like zooming in on your
yeah.
photos, making sure there's no grain.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not doing
Dude,
any of that.
grain is cool now.
I need your photo like right here, bro.
Oh my god. Yeah,
Blown up.
no
Huge.
pressure. No,
Huge.
like I know, look, I know we're gonna crush it. We're gonna have a great time
Yeah,
and
it's
I
gonna
know
be
it's gonna be awesome. But I do always get like when I'm doing stuff for other
a little nervous.
creatives, I'm like, oh man, like they're gonna be like looking at this, or they're gonna know, like they're gonna see, they're gonna know like why I did what I did.
Well, you know what's funny? You said that because when we got our wedding film back, so Brian Jenkins from Vicad Films did my wedding film. And I watched, going into it, like, watching the final film, I thought I was going to, like, kind of be nitpicky to where, like, oh man, the white balance or the audio, or they were just moments. Like, you were so wrapped up in, like, the moments because it's you now on the television. So it's like, same thing with, like, our engagement photos. Like, you look at them and you're not like, oh, the shadows, oh, the high, like, you're literally because they're you now. You know what I mean?
That's
So
that's
you
a really
don't.
good point. I had family photos taken. I've had family photos done a couple times now. Once like right after my daughter was born, and then again this past fall, and she's like 2 now. So, and I kind of had the same experience too. I thought I was going to be like, a little bit more, like kind of looking through them with like a fine tooth comb. But like you're right, like you don't notice, or no, I'm not going to say you don't notice, but like you're not thinking about the technical stuff.
You're not, and that was the mind blowing part to me.
Yeah.
Honestly. Like, because again, like your kids are smiling, like I'm gonna be looking at my wife smiling, like, it's so cool. So don't worry about the technical side. You do you. Your photos are awesome. I know they're gonna be awesome.
So what you're saying is I can overexpose them and like lose the highlights and
Yeah,
it'll
just
be fine. Yeah.
overexpose them. Just send me the raw footage so I can just drag down the clarity and contrast.
I don't send raws. Sorry, bro.
Damn it.
No, but like you're right. Like and credit to the women who have done my family photos. Like not only did they did an amazing job, but they like captured really like beautiful, authentic moments. Like they got really nice pose things, but like and I think this is probably why I like gravitate towards these people. But like the ones that are like my favorite are the ones that are like unplanned, unposed, the ones that like capture the essence, and like
Absolutely.
that's kind of like when I think about my like the reason why I do photography, the reason why I got into this is because I really enjoy capturing those like pure moments,
Sure.
and like having those be the star, like
Yeah.
you got like there, I'm sure for you, like there are like must have shots that you need to get.
Yeah.
But then other things happen. And I'm sure you get something that like, I don't want to say it was an accident because you always put yourself in a position to like get the shot. And if
Absolutely.
you don't put yourself in position to do it, like you're not going to get it. But like sometimes something happens that you can't plan for, and like you were in the right place at the right time because you had this like instinct.
You knew.
Like are those like what shots are your favorite shots? That's I guess my question.
So I would lean into candid. But I do like a little taste of editorial. So like, if you watch one of my films, like they're not so editorial. It's so tough. So you know how like wedding days are kind of like they're so fast paced, right? To where like if you're the person that's like stopping to like set this elegant shot up with all these things going on, people are kind of looking at you like, come on, like we got to get bridal prep, we got to get family, we got to get deal. So you don't really have that time. But some of my favorite shots are when you just have like just a couple there, and it's maybe like something dramatic, like a little sun flare through the trees. I think one of the weddings we worked at Hamilton Manor, they were just like in perfect light. Her dress was nice, and like that was the wedding where you guys like threw up the leaves.
The leaves, yeah.
Yeah, so like that was super cool. So like I do like a little taste of editorial, but majority of it is just like candid moments, man. Like just fun. And I think that's why, again, like why we all work good together, like in our referral network, because like I think we all have that same kind of vision. We want that like kind of epic shot, but we also know the importance of like the wedding day and the moment factor.
Yeah. It's got to be fun in the moment. Like it's got to be fun and it's got to be authentic in the moment, you know, like
Sure.
cuz like I don't know, for me like I think about this is that person's wedding day. Like how do they want to remember their wedding day? You know, do they want
Sure.
to like remember it as like I was really like stressed out during the photo experience, or I was like not even stressed but like really uncomfortable because like either it was taking too long or I was getting too much direction. You know, like that just doesn't feel authentic. And I really like emphasize like you got to feel comfortable, you got to feel like yourself, and like let's make it fun.
And you just hit the nail on the head. So on top of like what I want Dan Baldwin films to be is fun. Like it's your wedding day. Like you shouldn't be like, yeah, it's gonna be stressed out. But if I can take a little bit of that stress away and just make you laugh about something dumb, like even like during that leaf shot, like just us throwing them leaves up, the couple were like, oh my God, this is the best time ever.
Yeah.
But like if you're uptight and you're just like egotistical and like you're just like a photographer and not an actual person there shooting their day, that's where like it's like well, I want you to have fun, I want you to drink, I want you to party, I want you to be with your friends and laugh and like yes, what like we're gonna get good film, like I might have to stop you for like 5 minutes, but other than that, dude, like have fun, like
Yes.
candid, be yourself. And I think again, back to the referral network, like that's everybody has that same goal in mind, and it makes the day run so much smoother because
Yeah.
you know it just everything just works seamlessly.
Yeah. And I think at least for me, a big part of that it it didn't come until after I had a number of weddings under my belt, and you know so much of my anxiety was kind of alleviated after you like if you've been to any number of weddings, you've seen how things can kind of go off the rails, and you can see how timelines can get hijacked, and like you
For sure.
know things can run behind, and all that kind of stuff. But like I think for me, what started to happen was I saw all those things happen. I saw all these different things go wrong, quote unquote, to the point where like I started to realize, oh, there isn't really too many things that can happen where we can't regroup and we can't like have it
Exactly.
be
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Like for the most part, if we lose time here, we can make it up here. Or like if the weather is not ideal, there's going to be a place where we can get the shots that we need to get, even if it's like somewhere indoors.
For sure.
And like part of that comes with experience of like not part of that, like all of that comes with
All
experience.
of it. Absolutely.
Like
Yep.
working at venues, working in different lighting scenarios, working in different weather, working even when, the timeline is running like super behind and you realize like, okay, I have like 10 minutes to get all my bridal portraits. Like let's maximize this time, as much as we can.
For sure. And I think that's really what differentiates like in the price structure, in my opinion, to where like $1,000. Okay, just back on me. So $1,000 me videographer versus me now is like $1,000 me if it rained a little bit or like we were a little bit behind and shit hit the fan, I'd be losing my shit. I'd be like, oh my God, I gotta get the drone. Like I would just be all over the place. To where now it's just kind of like another day in the office where it's like, okay, like that's fine. Like we'll just get it here. We'll do it here. Like everything's like, we're like professional troubleshooters
Yeah.
essentially. Like every wedding goes off the rails, and in one way or another, there's no perfect wedding day, right? It's
Mm.
where it's like being able to work with that makes you a professional and makes you worth that price, in my opinion.
Yes. Yes. And I think, that essentially, whether people realize it or not, is like what you're paying for, right? Like
Absolutely.
you're paying for all that collective experience and all those collective, like decisions that you've made over time, and I've said this before and I'll say it again. Like I think at a certain point, like your creativity, I feel like at a certain point kind of plateaus. Like
Yeah,
there's really within the framework of like a wedding day, there's only like so much you can do.
I agree.
Um, that's like practical. So I think what really starts to get better over time is your decision making and
1,000.
where you position where do you go for the best lighting?
Right.
How do you maximize the number of photos you get with each different pose? Or like it maybe it's not even like a photo or video technical thing. Maybe it's like this is the time we have in the timeline and these are the photos that we need to get. So this is the order that we're going to do it in.
Right.
Like those are the things that I've seen like people get better at. And and it's not even like it's not who can take the best photo. I mean, it kind of is, but it's also like who can bring the best energy to the day.
Absolutely. And I mean, back to that topic, if you took a good looking couple on a 75-degree day, sun out, put them in front of the Renault winery, any front of the building, everybody in God's creation can create a good film and take good photos. But now take that same couple, let it be pouring rain, let there be guests everywhere, let there be a 30-minute delay in timeline, and now can they still create their product under that circumstance?
Yes.
And me 7 years ago could not. Me now could probably create something the same, if not better, in that circumstance. And that's where like I started to value myself being put in those situations and being able to navigate through pretty much anything a wedding day can throw at me and not be nervous, not panic, and still deliver a Dan Baldwin film production.
Yes. Yes. Or on the flip side, if I'll keep it on myself, if I am freaking out, I still got a smile on my face. I'm still thinking, hey, it's going to be okay. We got this, like it's all good.
Yeah. Meanwhile, pouring rain, sweat's dripping.
Yeah.
We're good. You guys look great. I'm gonna pass out over here.
I mean, I've definitely been there, but like,
Yeah.
you're right. Like I think that's the big differentiator is, when I first started in weddings, you just don't know. Like, you don't know, like, the different ways that things can go wrong
For
on a
sure.
wedding day. And I think it's important early on to get those little, like, boosts of confidence,
For sure.
But,
Because
like,
with the internet, you see like these perfect photos, and you're like, oh my god, I want that. But like they might have had an hour plus with the couple on a
Yeah.
bright sunny day in beautiful conditions.
yeah.
It's like you
Yeah.
don't really know what goes behind the scenes of that, of those photos or of those videos that made that happen.
Yeah, yeah. And then some days you have to like I'll borrow this term from our friend Kelly. Like some days you have to fight
out
for
Kelly.
everything. Yeah, shout out Kelly C.
Shout out
Some
Kelly.
days you have to fight for everything. Some days you have it's like, it's like a struggle. Everything feels like a struggle. Whether it's the weather, whether
wind,
it's
The
like the
wind,
logistics of the
blowing the
day.
dress or her hair,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
yeah, yep,
And until you get into those situations, like you don't realize like, oh, those are the things like you said that differentiate, $1,000 you from
yes,
whatever you're charging now, which you're
20,000.
more
35,000 on a good day. No, it's the level of experience is and there was one wedding specifically that I realized it, and it was at Renault, and it was pouring rain, and the couples were kind of like, we want to be outside, and like, you could tell they were a little down, like their ceremony, everything was inside, the ceremony was down, but like we had like a 10-minute window, and then had like 10 people on each side on their bridal party. We had like a 10-minute window right after their ceremony where like it stopped raining, and we got everything done in those 10 minutes, and the film looks amazing. But like it 8 years ago I would have been like, what do I shoot, how do I, to where you handle it,
right.
you just handle it and you get it done.
Right, because you've been in that situation enough time. So like, and this also kind of plays into like, when should we go out for like golden hour, right? Like when should we, should we leave our reception to go out for golden hour? And or like that scenario is perfect where it's raining all day, but then you get that like little 10-minute window, and like if you're not like, in my early days, I probably wouldn't have been as experienced to say, to think, all right, maybe we'll get a break later. And if we do get a break, this is what I'm going to do. Like I wouldn't have been able to like think ahead to that, you
Right.
know. But
Right.
like you've done this enough where you can say, all right, I'm checking the weather, checking the radar. Like, maybe later on we're going to get this break and we'll be able to go outside. So like I'm gonna say to myself, all right, if we have that time during cocktail hour, or if we have that time, before, like while everyone's coming into the ballroom, but it's still before intros, or like maybe in between intros and speeches, like those are the things where, because it's not just your timeline, right? Like we don't get carte blanche to do whatever
Right.
we want on a wedding day. It would be amazing if we
Yeah.
did.
Right. Right. We're working with the venue. We're working with everybody.
Yeah, yeah, and like and re- there's things that need to happen from the venue side that are totally reasonable. Like they have a schedule that they're on for like serving, salads and meals and like, when they're going to plate everything. And that's like very important, because if that goes off the rails, then like that's a big problem too. So, being able to say, all right, I think we're going to get this break at this time. How can I work within what the DJ wants to do, within what the venue wants to do, and then within what the couple wants to do? Like, am I pushing the couple too hard to do something? Like sometimes like you get done with the portrait session and couples like, we're good.
Good.
Don't bother
Yep.
me for the rest of the night.
Yep.
Like they don't
Yeah.
say it like that, but like
And it's
they're
like
they're done.
right.
They want to
Right.
enjoy their party with their guests, and that's cool.
And I think with that experience, you pick up on that. To where I think in experience, like you still want what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I have to get this sunset shot. Yeah, but it's their day. At the end of the day, it's their day. If they want those sunset shots, they'll say, "Hey, Dan, can we go out during golden hour?"
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or like
So-
being able to position that question in a way where they're not feeling pressured.
Yes.
If
Yes.
like you
Super
sense that maybe they're kind of a little bit, over it, they just want to like chill, instead of being like, we got to go out for sunset, being like, hey guys, we probably have about,
Shit, we're going outside.
we're going,
Grab your champagne. We're
Yeah.
going outside now.
cut the first dance. We're
Yeah.
going outside.
DJ, we're out of here.
But like, no, but like saying, hey guys, probably have about 10, 15 minutes until we lose the sun. I see you guys are like enjoying, your drinks, your salads, whatever. You're talking to people. How do we feel about going out for 5 minutes? Boom. That's it.
Yep. And 9 times out of 10, they'll say, absolutely. Let
Yeah.
me get my shit together.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, usually it'll be the bride and the groom will be like,
Oh.
do I got to get my jacket on? Like, sorry, grooms.
Yeah. That's so funny. It's true, though. It's true.
Yeah. Yeah, man, it's a wild ride. And we were texting yesterday a little bit. Like, there's definitely a camaraderie that kind of comes out of like, and we've never really hung out outside of weddings. We haven't really talked even, I don't think, outside of like a wedding day. But there's like a definitely like a bond and a camaraderie that comes out of like working with other wedding professionals on a wedding day, where you feel like, all right, I may not even really like, I a lot of the stuff I did not know about you that I learned today.
Cool.
But I definitely feel like, all right, Danny B, like I know who he is, like at,
Right.
at his core, which
Right.
I feel like is a really special thing, and maybe it
Guys,
comes from, being around each other on like on wedding days where, we get to bear witness to something that's like really special and like really important.
For sure.
So I don't know. That's just something that I thought about that I thought was really cool.
Yeah, man, and it's super cool because again, like we are shooting weddings, and this is the couple's should be the best day of their life, and we're just there to capture it. You know what I mean? Ego aside, no matter where I came from or like what I do, they paid me to capture their day. At the end of the day, like if I can do that and have fun with you guys, like I mean, that's the goal.
Yeah.
You have fun, capture some good memories, and then it's
Yeah.
awesome. It's great.
And then be super pumped on the way home. I'm kind of like, I feel like I'm there now, like you were kind of to bring it back to, your first wedding where you were like, that was awesome. Like that was so cool. And you were kind of like riding that high, like obviously after a wedding day, I'm tired, like physically I'm tired, mentally tired, but there's still this sense of like, that was really cool. You know,
Right.
like that was awesome. And I kind of like ride that high on the way home. And then it usually takes me like, I don't know, it takes me like a good hour or two to like unwind
It does.
from that energy.
Because there's always like those like 5 clips or like those 5 photos where you're like, whoa, like I can't wait to see what they look like. Whether that's
Mm,
in the prep or like maybe you got a cool sun flare, like, there's always those 5 photos where you're just like, I just can't wait to go home and see what they look like, color graded, edited.
do
Uh,
you go home and like look at your footage that night, or do you wait till the next day?
so I used to, but I realized like, same thing. Like you get home, you're tired, and I think I'm very mistake prone.
Mm,
Right now, I just pack it down. Then the next morning, I wake up, have breakfast, drink my coffee, and then I start uploading my clips.
okay.
I just that process works for me. I know some people go home and they want to back up their whole life savings in an hour, which is fine, and I get that. But like, I think my all of my SD cards are good in my house. You know,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
a night, they should be.
So yeah, I if you know for what if there's a reason I need to, I'll import them that night. But I usually won't look at them that night because kind of the same thing. Like not only like am I like more mistake prone, but also like I just I also have as much as I get pumped about certain photos, like you were saying, in that state I can also be like hypercritical and like I can
Yeah.
start to like beat myself up over like, oh, you should have done this a different way, or you should have done this that way, or like, or that's like, that composition is crap, that lighting is crap. So like, I'll import my stuff and I'll like pull out the previews and like I'll be pumped about the previews, but then I actually won't look at it for a couple of days. I'll like give myself some space from it for a couple of days
Oh, okay.
until I can like go back with a fresh mind, with a little bit of perspective. I've kind of processed the day a little bit. So I know that like when I'm looking at those photos, I know that I did like the best job that I could like within the constraints of the day,
For sure.
you know?
I think that's pretty big what you just said because there are some films where I'm like, my white balance was a little off, or like I should have shot this better. But I gotta remind myself we had 5 minutes with the couple. Everything was rushed, and like the film's still gonna look great, but it's just the the stress we put on ourselves as artists
Yeah.
and creatives, where we want everything to be perfect. We want, and obviously like that's we strive for that, but there are just some days where like it's just not going to be perfect, and we have to accept that.
Yeah.
Just put out a really 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 good product, in spite of that.
Yeah. Well, you said it before, like there's no perfect wedding days. And Caroline in the first episode said the exact same thing verbatim. There's no perfect wedding days. So like, and not only are there no perfect wedding days, no wedding day is the same.
Right.
So like
Ever.
if like if I'm going to compare myself, compare photos across weddings, like I can do that, but like it doesn't take into account all the outside factors that went into getting that photo.
Right.
So like, I to your point before, if it's a 75-degree day, beautiful sunny day at Renault Winery where you have amazing, you have an amazing couple, and you have plenty of time in the timeline, like to compare and to compare those photos to like a day where everything is kind of, doesn't come as easily
Right.
rushed. Yeah, like that's it's not a fair comparison, but it is still possible to achieve the same outcome.
For sure.
But it makes those like other days, I don't know, in some ways it makes them feel more rewarding, even
Yeah.
though it may have felt like a struggle.
Yeah, and I think the couples are gonna love it regardless.
Yeah.
Because they know it was pouring rain, and they know that there's not going to be a sun flare or anything like that. So it's like, again, like that's just the stress we put on ourselves trying to strive for that perfect photo.
Yeah.
It isn't a bad thing, but it's also stressful. But again, like back to your point of like uploading everything the night before, it's kind of I like your idea of like giving it some breather, because that's usually what I'll do is I'll upload the footage, give it like a night or so, and then start to edit either like Monday or Tuesday, where it's like you're like you kind of had time to digest everything, and like which is cool.
Yeah. I also have noticed, and maybe this is like being a parent thing, but like I don't do my best editing like late at night. Like
No.
once it starts getting like past a certain time, like I'm packing it in because I've had too many experiences where like I'll do an edit, not even for like a wedding necessarily, just any session, and I'll like do some edits, go to sleep, wake up the next morning, try to pick up where I left off, and be like, dude, you're
What? Yeah.
what
What
the
were?
fuck were you doing with your reds? You know, like or
What kind of
like
crop is this?
yeah,
What? Uh,
yeah.
Dude, it's well. I used to be able to sit through. So I deliver full-length films, so start to finish. So I used to be able to sit through a whole edit and like knock it out in like 6, 7 hours, like all the way through from upload to just you know. But then I realized like the same thing. Like by the time you get through like the reception portion, like maybe like your hue or like your maybe your white balance shift is just a little off, and like you're so used to seeing that, and your eyes are tired. So right now I do like each section kind of on a different day. So I'll do like prep ceremony in one day. I'll do like,
Mm.
formalities one day. And then I'll do like the party scene another day. And I find it just like, it just makes the editing better. And like to your point, nighttime editing is not my forte as well. I'm really good like first thing in the morning, coffee hits, you know what I mean? I'm good till about 2. And then from there, it's kind of like I'm off of work and I just, enjoy my day from there.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So.
No, there's definitely something to be said for. I'm kind of the same way. Like I'm most productive. I'm glad you wanted to do this in the morning because this is
Oh,
like I feel
dude,
like
we're
this.
cooking over here.
I got to get you one of these mugs, dude.
Dude, I need. Can you please get me one of those? Can
I
you bring?
will,
Can you bring one to the maternity session? Because that would be awesome.
dude. 100%. I'm not even sure where I got this, um, but
All right,
we'll track something down for you.
and I'll keep the mustache until the maternity session, and then after that, I think it'll be time for it to take the height.
Maybe you should shave it during the maternity session so we could get a little like with the stash and a little without the stash.
Dude, don't tempt me. That could be cool.
We could get the wifey shaving your mustache. That would be.
We'll pretend it's candid.
Oh my god, dude! I'm so happy we did this.
Me too.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Stoked to see you for the maternity shoot. Stoked for you to be a dad. Stoked to hopefully see you a few times this year out there at the wedding. And
Oh, yeah.
yeah, man, I
Dude,
really appreciate you.
I appreciate you having me on. I'm excited to see where this podcast goes. I think this is incredible because I mean, to this whole topic, like you meet so many wedding vendors and they're just so cool. Like even like DJs, but like you're not talking to them. It's just like a quick 20-minute convo. Hi, what's up? Let me get an audio out from you. Like, later.
What is it? Is it XLR? Is it XLR?
All right, dude. I'll tag you. See you later.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see your other guests. Honestly, I'm gonna be a huge subscriber. So,
Sweet.
yeah, man, I'm excited for this year. I hope you are too. And
Yeah.
thanks for having me on, bro.
Yeah, man. All right, dude.
Cool.
I'll talk to you soon. Enjoy the rest of your day.
All right, bro. You too.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.